The Galactic Court put a human on trial and lost the case. The United Galactic Assembly Judicial Chamber 47X was not designed with comfort in mind. It was, like most institutions of cosmic governance, designed with intimidation as its primary architectural objective. Towering crystalline pillars stretched upward for what seemed like miles, their transparent surfaces refracting the artificial light into spectrums no human eye was meant to comprehend. The chamber floor, a perfectly polished disk of obsidian metal, reflected the assembly of alien dignitaries with unsettling precision, creating the disorienting effect of an infinite abyss populated by bizarre life forms. For Lieutenant Miles Holloway of Earth's Interstellar Diplomatic Corps, the chamber's intimidation factor was working precisely as intended. He stood alone on the defendant's platform, a circular pedestal that hovered precisely 3 meters above the chamber floor. The platform offered no railings, no barriers, and no comfort. Just another subtle psychological weapon in the Assembly's arsenal of judicial intimidation techniques. Will the accused please state his designation for the official record? The voice belonged to Chief Arbiter Xendari, a 12-foot-tall crustacean being whose exoskeleton gleamed with bioluminescent markings that pulsed with each syllable. Its multiple appendages worked independently, manipulating various control interfaces while its primary claws remained ceremonially folded in what the Assembly species recognized as a position of judicial authority. Lieutenant Miles Holloway, Earth Diplomatic Corps human, Miles replied, trying not to focus on how his voice seemed to echo unnaturally in the chamber, as if the acoustics themselves were designed to make defendants sound weak and uncertain. The United Galactic Assembly recognizes the accused. Xendari's translator module converted its clicking mandible language into universal standard. You stand before this tribunal accused of 7 violations of the Galactic Unified Code, 3 breaches of the Proxima Accords, and 1 count of attempted sabotage of an alpha-level security system on the Xendari military outpost KX-549. How do you plead? Miles shifted uncomfortably on the platform. It wasn't his first time dealing with alien legal systems, but it was certainly his most significant. I plead not guilty by reason of cultural misunderstanding, Your, Excellency, Magnificence. Sorry, I'm not familiar with the proper honorific. A ripple of what might have been interpreted as disapproval, or possibly amusement, spread through the assembled dignitaries. Hundreds of different species filled the observer rings that surrounded the chamber, each more alien than the last. Some were vaguely humanoid. Others resembled nothing Earth's evolutionary process had ever conceived. They were gelatinous beings suspended in anti-gravity fields, crystalline entities that seemed to phase in and out of solid form, and what appeared to be sentient clouds of luminous gas contained within specialized environmental suits. Arbiter. Will suffice, Xendari replied with what sounded like strained patience. Your plea has been noted, though I must inform you that cultural misunderstanding is not a recognized defense under Assembly law. Well, it should be, Miles muttered under his breath. The human subvocalization has been recorded and added to the evidence file, announced a monotone voice from everywhere and nowhere at once, the chamber's AI judicial assistant, which apparently had hearing capabilities far beyond what Miles had anticipated. Great. Perfect. Absolutely fantastic. Miles sighed. He straightened his standard-issue diplomatic uniform, a sleek gray affair with blue piping that was supposed to convey Earth's peaceful intentions, but mostly just made him look like an underpaid cruise ship attendant. May I request legal representation, as guaranteed under Article 27 of the Interspecies Diplomatic Treaty? Xendari's bioluminescent patterns briefly flashed a pattern that Miles's cultural training identified as something between amusement and pity. The accused may have representation. However, I must note that no qualified legal representative has volunteered to defend your case. None? Miles looked around the vast chamber incredulously. In this entire assembly of advanced civilizations, not one lawyer wants to take my case? The term lawyer is considered derogatory in 16 member species cultures. The AI judicial assistant helpfully informed him. The preferred term is truth advocate. Fine. No truth advocate wants to represent me. A small hovering platform approached from one of the chamber's many entry portals. On it stood, or rather undulated, a being that resembled a 2-meter-tall translucent jellyfish with multiple pulsing neural clusters visible through its gelatinous body. "I will represent the human," announced the jellyfish-like creature. Its words translated by a small device attached to what might generously be called its neck region. "I am Vilixia Mem, truth advocate of the Hydrozoan Collective." Miles felt a surge of relief that quickly dissipated when the creature added, "I specialize in hopeless cases involving primitive species. My success rate is precisely 0%. But I find the experience of inevitable failure intellectually stimulating." "I withdraw my request for representation," Miles said quickly. "Request denial, noted but overruled," Zexcalur responded. "According to Statute 439B, once a truth advocate has accepted a case, the representation cannot be withdrawn except under circumstances of advocate death, quantum dissolution, or temporal paradox." The hovering platform carrying Vilixia Mem docked alongside Miles's pedestal, bringing the gelatinous advocate uncomfortably close. A faint smell of salt water and ozone emanated from the creature. "Greetings, human client," Vilixia's translator buzzed. "Please refrain from touching my exterior membrane. Your primitive epidermis contains bacteria that would provide me with an extremely unpleasant death experience." "Wouldn't dream of it," Miles assured the jellyfish, taking a small step away. "The tribunal will now present evidence against the accused," announced Zexcalur. With a wave of its primary claw, a holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber. "Security recording from Xendari Military Outpost KX-549, Standard Cycle 3329.47. The hologram displayed a corridor of unmistakably military design, all harsh angles and utilitarian efficiency. The recording showed Miles, looking considerably less composed than his current self, creeping along the corridor with exaggerated stealth movements that would have been comical if the situation weren't so serious. He was repeatedly checking, a small device in his hand, stopping occasionally to press himself against walls when patrol drones passed by. "The accused is clearly seen infiltrating a restricted area," narrated Zexcalur. "Note the deliberate evasion of security measures." The recording continued, showing Miles approaching a massive door marked with Xendari warning symbols. He attached a small device to the control panel, which began blinking rapidly. "Electronic intrusion device detected," the AI assistant commented. "Xendari security analysis confirms the device was attempting to override alpha-level security protocols." In the recording, Miles appeared increasingly frustrated as the device failed to open the door. After several attempts, he removed it, and instead tried what appeared to be random combinations on the control panel itself. "I would like to point out," Miles interjected, "that I was actually trying to leave the facility at this point, not break into anything." "Silence during evidence presentation," Zexcalur ordered. "You will have opportunity for defense." The recording showed Miles finally slumping against the door in apparent defeat. Then, inexplicably, he began talking to the control panel. The audio was enhanced and played through the chamber's sophisticated sound system. "Listen, you stupid door," recording Miles was saying. "I just need to get out of here. I'm not supposed to be in this section. It was an accident. Just open sesame." To everyone's apparent surprise, including the Miles in the recording, the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. "The Xendari security bypass was successful," stated the AI assistant. The phrase, "open sesame," triggered a catastrophic security protocol failure. The recording showed Miles looking utterly stunned before cautiously stepping through the doorway into what was clearly a highly secure research laboratory. The hologram froze on this incriminating image. "The breach resulted in access to classified Xendari weapons research," Zexcalur continued. "The accused proceeded to interact with prototype technology designated the Nullifier, a device capable of rendering ineffective all energy-based weapons within a 50-parsec radius. The arbiter's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what appeared to be deep concern. This technology, if deployed, could have catastrophic consequences for galactic security, and the balance of power between assembly member species. Miles opened his mouth to protest, but Velixia Mem's tentacle-like appendage gently waved in front of him. "Allow me," the gelatinous advocate said, its neural clusters pulsing rapidly. "Honored arbiter, the recording clearly shows my client expressing surprise at the door's opening. This suggests no premeditated intent to access the secure laboratory." "Intent is irrelevant," countered a new voice. From another platform glided what appeared to be a 7-foot-tall praying mantis, wearing an elaborate uniform covered in medals and insignia. "I am General Kavex, Chief Security Officer of the Xendari Empire, the human-accessed restricted technology regardless of intent." "The prosecution acknowledges General Kavex," Zexakalur announced. "Continue with the evidence presentation." The hologram resumed, showing Miles wandering through the laboratory with an expression of mingled awe and confusion. He approached various devices, careful not to touch anything until he came to a central pedestal where a small, innocuous-looking sphere sat within a containment field. The Nullifier, General Kavex identified, his mandibles clicking with agitation that the translator rendered as vocal tension. The culmination of 60 years of Xendari weapons research. In the recording, Miles was reading information displayed on a nearby console. His expression changed from curiosity to something resembling disbelief, then amusement. He began laughing, quietly at first, then with increasing volume until he was bent over, hands on knees, in apparent hysterics. "The human clearly recognizes the weapon's potential," General Kavex asserted, "and finds our imminent strategic advantage amusing." "Or," Miles finally spoke up, unable to contain himself, "I recognized what it actually was." "You will have your opportunity to speak, human," Zexakalur reprimanded. The recording continued. Miles, still chuckling, approached the containment field and examined it carefully. Then, in a move that caused a collective gasp from the assembled aliens, he deactivated the field and picked up the sphere. At this point, General Kavex declared, "The human committed an act of sabotage against critical military technology." The hologram showed Miles turning the sphere over in his hands, examining it from all angles, before pressing a small indentation on its surface. The sphere began to glow with a soft blue light. "Activation sequence initiated," the AI assistant commented. In the recording, Miles placed the sphere back on the pedestal and backed away, still wearing an expression that seemed inappropriate for someone who had just activated a weapon of mass disarmament. He appeared to be counting down on his fingers. When he reached 0, the sphere emitted a brief pulse of light, and then began playing music. Loud, rhythmic, distinctly human music filled the laboratory, accompanied by a light show that projected colorful patterns across the walls and ceiling. The recording abruptly ended. Silence fell over the judicial chamber as hundreds of alien dignitaries processed what they had just witnessed. Miles stood on his platform, arms folded, with the unmistakable expression of someone trying very hard not to smirk. Would the accused care to explain this final act of sabotage? Zexakalur eventually asked, its bioluminescent patterns displaying what might have been confusion. "I would be delighted to," Miles replied, straightening up. "What the Xendari have been researching for 60 years, what they call the Nullifier, is not a weapon at all. It's a human entertainment device, specifically a ModelX Party Sphere. It's a portable music player and light show generator that became popular on Earth about 15 years ago." General Kavex's antennae vibrated with obvious agitation. "Preposterous. Our scientists have conducted extensive tests." "Let me guess," Miles interrupted. "When activated in proximity to energy weapons, they stop functioning correctly?" "Precisely," Kavex exclaimed. "The disruption field extends for—" "It's not a disruption field," Miles said, now unable to suppress his grin. "The party sphere creates harmonic resonance patterns that interfere with certain frequencies. On Earth, it's used to enhance dance parties. The light show is synchronized with the music, but the resonance happens to match the frequency used in standard galactic energy weapon power cells. It doesn't disable them permanently, it just makes them temporarily go into safety shutdown." Vilixia Mem's neural clusters were pulsing rapidly. My client appears to be suggesting that the Xendari Imperium has been researching a human recreational device under the mistaken belief it was a weapon of strategic importance. Not just researching it, Miles added. Based on the manufacturing markings I saw, they reverse-engineered it from a model that was recalled for having too strong a resonance field. Earth banned that particular version because it interfered with household appliances. General Kvex's mandibles clacked together furiously. This is an elaborate deception. The human is attempting to diminish our technological achievement. Honored Arbiter. Miles addressed Zex Kalur directly. There's a simple way to verify my claim. Access the Galactic Information Network and search for ModelX Party Sphere. You'll find millions of references, advertisements, and even instructional videos on its use at human social gatherings. Zexakalur made a gesture with one of its secondary appendages, and several holographic screens appeared around the chamber, displaying results from the search. Sure enough, there were countless images of the exact same sphere being used by humans in various celebratory settings. I'm still guilty of being somewhere I shouldn't have been, Miles admitted. I got lost trying to find my assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing of the outpost, but I didn't sabotage anything. I just recognized a piece of human technology that someone must have left behind, probably at a diplomatic function, which the Xendari found and misidentified. A low murmur spread through the assembly as the implications became clear. General Kvex was now emitting a high-pitched sound that the translator couldn't, or perhaps diplomatically chose not to, interpret. Arbiter, the Xendari general finally managed. This matter concerns Xendari national security. I request that the proceedings be classified and continued in a closed session. The revelation that your most advanced weapon is actually a human party toy concerns the security of all assembly species, countered Vilixia Mem, its gelatinous body rippling with what might have been excitement. This is precisely the type of information sharing that the assembly was founded to facilitate. Zex Kalur's bioluminescent patterns displayed a complex sequence that Miles couldn't interpret, but which seemed to indicate deep contemplation. After several tense moments, the Arbiter spoke. The tribunal will take a recess to consider the new evidence. All parties will remain available for questioning. As the hovering platforms began to move away from the central chamber, Miles leaned toward his gelatinous attorney. How do you think it's going? Unexpectedly well, Vilixia Mem replied, its neural clusters pulsing rapidly. Though I should warn you that in similar cases involving technological misunderstanding, there is a 73.4% chance the aggrieved party will attempt to save face through assassination. That's not comforting. Comfort is not part of my service. Agreement, the jellyfish-like advocate responded. But survival advice is, I suggest you avoid consuming any Xendari-prepared food or beverage for approximately the next 7 standard years. The recess lasted what felt to Miles like an eternity, but was in fact only 43 standard minutes. During this time, he was confined to a small antechamber with Vilixia Mem, who spent the time telling him excruciating details about previous cases it had lost, apparently as some form of professional courtesy. When they were finally summoned back to the main chamber, Miles noticed an immediate difference in the atmosphere. The observer rings were now completely full, with additional viewing platforms hastily added to accommodate what appeared to be every diplomat, official, and dignitary currently on the station. Word of your case has spread, Vilixia informed him. This has become what humans might call a public relations disaster for the Xendari. Great, Miles muttered. So instead of one species wanting me dead, now I have their entire civilization looking for revenge. The United Galactic Assembly Judicial Chamber will reconvene, announced Zex Kalur, its bioluminescent patterns now displaying a more measured, formal pattern. After review of the evidence and consultation with technological experts, the tribunal has reached a conclusion. Miles stood as straight as possible on his platform, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel. Lieutenant Miles Holloway, of Earth, the Arbiter continued, you have been found guilty of unauthorized access to a restricted area of the Xendari military outpost, KX-549. Miles felt his heart sink. Unauthorized access alone carried a minimum sentence of 5 years in an assembly detention facility, which, according to horror stories among the diplomatic corps, made Earth's worst prisons look like luxury resorts. However, Zexakalur added, the tribunal finds that your actions thereafter constituted not sabotage, but rather an inadvertent act of technological clarification beneficial to assembly security protocols. A confused murmur spread through the observer rings. Explanation requested, called out a voice from one of the diplomatic platforms. How does revealing the ineffectiveness of Xendari weapons research benefit assembly security? The Assembly's founding principle is the prevention of interspecies conflict through information sharing and technological transparency, Zexakalur replied. The human's identification of the true nature of the device prevents potential strategic miscalculation based on false capabilities. General Kovex, who had been ominously silent, suddenly activated his platform's communication system. The Xendari Imperium protests this finding. The human has compromised 60 years of our research. Research that was fundamentally flawed, Zexakalur countered. The tribunal notes that proper protocol would have been for the Xendari to register their discovery of unknown technology with the Assembly Science Council, which would have correctly identified it. The general's mandibles clacked together in what was clearly fury. And reveal our strategic advantage? The Krolovar have been developing quantum disruptors for decades. The Nullifier was our countermeasure. A ripple of shocked reactions spread through the chamber as numerous species representatives activated their communication systems all at once, creating a cacophony of translated protests and counter-accusations. Silence. Zexakalur's amplified voice cut through the chaos. The chamber immediately fell quiet. This outburst illustrates precisely why the Assembly's transparency protocols exist. General Kovex has just revealed classified information about Krolovar weapons development, which their representatives are now obligated to address. All attention turned to a platform occupied by what appeared to be sentient bundles of fiber optic cables, arranged in roughly humanoid form. The Krolovar representative's face, a complex weave of glowing filaments, brightened to an almost painful intensity. The Krolovar consciousness acknowledges development of defensive capabilities, the being's melodic multi-toned voice announced. However, they are a response to Xendari plasma phase technology, which we detected 27 cycles ago. Lies, General Kovex exclaimed. The plasma phase project was our response to your graviton manipulation experiments, which were necessitated by your temporal distortion field tests. As the accusations continued to fly back and forth, Miles leaned toward his gelatinous attorney. Is this normal for assembly trials? No, Velixia Mem replied, its neural clusters pulsing in what might have been amusement. This is unprecedented. You have inadvertently triggered what humans might call airing of dirty laundry on a galactic scale. I feel like I should apologize, but I'm not sure to whom. Perhaps to everyone simultaneously, the Jellyfish suggested, though I advise against it, as it might constitute an admission of greater responsibility than your actual guilt warrants. After several minutes of increasingly hostile technological revelations between various species, Zexakalur finally managed to restore order. These disclosures will be addressed in a special Security Council session, the Arbiter announced. For now, we return to the matter at hand. Lieutenant Holloway, please approach the central platform. Miles's hovering pedestal detached from its position and moved toward the center of the chamber, stopping directly before Zexakalur's imposing form. Up close, the Arbiter was even more intimidating, its compound eyes reflecting Miles's nervous expression back at him in hundreds of tiny facets. The tribunal's sentence is as follows, Zexakalur declared. For unauthorized access to a restricted area, 3 months of cultural integration service. Miles blinked in surprise. Cultural integration service was the lightest possible sentence, under assembly law, essentially community service helping new species adapt to galactic society. Additionally, the Arbiter continued, you are hereby appointed as a special consultant to the Assembly Technology Recognition Council, tasked with identifying other potential instances of human technology being misclassified by member species. That's not a punishment, Miles said cautiously. Correct. Xexcalur's translator rendered what might have been the crustacean equivalent of dry amusement. The Assembly recognizes that your actions, while technically in violation of access protocols, have revealed a significant gap in our technological verification procedures. Your unique perspective as a human familiar with your species' devices, but trained in diplomatic protocols, makes you ideally suited to prevent similar misunderstandings in the future. General Kovex's platform abruptly detached from the observer ring and shot forward. This is an outrage. The human has made a mockery of Xendari military capability. We demand appropriate punishment. Xexcalur's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a configuration that even Miles could recognize as severe disapproval. The Xendari Imperium is currently in a poor position to demand anything, General. Your government has violated no fewer than 16 Assembly technology disclosure protocols. Consider the human's light sentence a gesture of goodwill that might encourage similar leniency when your own violations are addressed. The General's antennae flattened against his carapace, a posture of defeat that required no translation. This tribunal is concluded, Xexcalur announced. Lieutenant Holloway, you will report to the Technology Recognition Council tomorrow at first cycle. Your cultural integration service will be scheduled around these new duties. As the platforms began to disperse and the Assembly members filed out through various exits, Miles found himself face-to-face with Vilixia Mem. Congratulations, the gelatinous advocate's translator buzzed. You are my first successful case. Thank you for your help, Miles replied sincerely, though I'm not sure how much of this was legal representation versus dumb luck. In interspecies law there is a saying, fortune favors the foreign. Vilixia's neural clusters pulsed in what might have been the jellyfish equivalent of a smile. Your human entertainment device has exposed centuries of technological deceit between Assembly species. The diplomatic repercussions will last for decades. So I've basically caused a galactic incident? You have caused a necessary recalibration of interspecies trust, the jellyfish corrected. Many would consider this a positive development for long-term stability, despite the short-term chaos. As they descended toward the chamber floor, Miles noticed a small delegation of humans waiting near one of the exits, members of Earth's diplomatic corps, judging by their uniforms. They were trying and failing to maintain properly serious expressions. I believe your species representatives wish to speak with you, Vilixia observed. I must attend to other matters. May your cellular degradation process be pleasantly prolonged, Lieutenant Holloway. Yours too, Miles replied, assuming this was some form of farewell. As the jellyfish undulated away, Miles approached the human delegation. Their leader, a stern-looking woman with ambassador's insignia, stepped forward. Lieutenant Holloway, she said, her voice impressively neutral. You've created quite a situation. Ambassador Chen, I can explain. She held up a hand to silence him. The explanation can wait for the official debriefing. For now, I've been instructed to inform you that Earth Central is pleased with the outcome. Miles blinked in surprise. Pleased? I was sure I'd be recalled and reprimanded. A hint of a smile finally broke through her professional facade. Lieutenant, you just accomplished more for human diplomatic standing in one trial than our official channels have managed in 20 years. The Assembly now sees humans as technologically underestimated and potentially valuable consultants rather than primitive newcomers to be tolerated. All because I recognized a party toy? All because you demonstrated that even our recreational technology is advanced enough to be mistaken for weapons by established species. She glanced around to ensure they weren't being closely observed, then added in a lower voice. Between us, Earth intelligence has suspected for years that various species were hoarding technology. Your little stunt has forced the issue into the open. Miles felt a dawning realization. Was I set up? Did someone plant that party sphere knowing the Xendari would find it? Ambassador Chen's expression revealed nothing. What matters is the outcome, Lieutenant. You're now positioned at the intersection of multiple species' technological secrets with assembly backing. That's an intelligence goldmine. So I'm being drafted as a spy? Not at all, she replied smoothly. You're simply continuing your diplomatic duties with expanded responsibilities. If you happen to learn interesting things about assembly species, technological capabilities during your new role, Earth Central would naturally be interested in your insights. Miles sighed. And if I refuse? Why would you? Chen asked with perfect innocence. It's a prestigious position, far beyond your current rank's typical assignments. Your career will advance rapidly. Before Miles could respond, a commotion near one of the chamber entrances caught their attention. General Kivex was engaged in what appeared to be a heated argument with several other Xendari officials. I believe that's our cue to leave, Ambassador Chen said, gesturing toward a different exit. The general seems unlikely to accept the tribunal's decision with grace. As they walked briskly away from the judicial chamber, Miles found himself wondering just how much of what had transpired had been accident versus design. Had he truly stumbled into a restricted area by chance, or had someone ensured his path would lead him there? Was the party sphere planted, or was it genuinely a case of Xendari misidentification? Ambassador, he finally asked, just how deep does this go? Chen gave him a sideways glance that revealed nothing. Welcome to galactic politics, Lieutenant. Everything goes deeper than it appears. And the Xendari? They're going to want revenge. Undoubtedly, she agreed. But they'll have to be subtle about it now that you're under official assembly protection. I suggest you avoid their section of the station for the foreseeable future. And definitely don't eat anything they offer you. My attorney gave me the same advice. Smart jellyfish? Chen remarked. We should hire it. As they entered a transport tube that would take them to the Earth diplomatic compound, Miles found himself laughing, partly from relief, partly from the absurdity of the situation. Something amusing, Lieutenant? Chen inquired. Just thinking about how this all started, Miles replied. The most advanced weapon in the Xendari arsenal turned out to be a music player that was recalled on Earth for being too powerful. There's a lesson in there somewhere, Chen mused. Never underestimate human ingenuity, even when we're just trying to have a good time. That, the ambassador agreed with a rare smile. And always read the instruction manual before reverse engineering. Alien technology. The transport tube sealed shut and accelerated away from the judicial chamber, carrying Miles toward his new role in galactic politics. A human accidentally promoted to the center of interspecies intrigue, all because he recognized a party toy. 3 standard months later, Lieutenant Miles Holloway, now bearing the unwieldy official title of Special Consultant to the Assembly Technology Recognition Council Human Division, found himself in yet another restricted area. This time, however, he had proper authorization. The research facility orbiting the gas giant Meritus 9 was officially designated as a neutral scientific collaboration station. But in reality, it was where the Assembly sent technological oddities that defied easy classification. Miles had spent the past weeks traveling from one such facility to another, examining devices that various species had collected, confiscated, or sometimes simply found drifting in space. This is the item in question, said Dr. Nixavon, a spindly arachnoid scientist whose 8 eyes blinked in complex patterns as she spoke. She gestured toward a sealed containment unit with one of her front appendages. Discovered by a Traxian, mining vessel in the debris field of an abandoned human colony ship. Miles peered through the transparent barrier at what appeared to be an ordinary metal cylinder about 30 centimeters long with various attachments. And what have your tests determined? Dr. Nixavon's mandibles clicked together in what Miles had learned was a sign of scientific frustration. It emits complex vibrational patterns when activated. We've identified 17 distinct settings, each producing a different frequency. Our working theory is that it's a communication device, possibly for encoded transmissions. Miles stared at the cylinder for a long moment, then closed his eyes briefly. I need to see it outside the containment field. That contravenes safety. Protocol? The arachnoid scientist objected. The vibrational patterns might be harmful at close range. I assure you it's perfectly safe, Miles replied, trying to keep his expression professionally neutral. I recognize this device. After a brief argument about proper procedures, Dr. Nixavan reluctantly authorized the containment field to be lowered. Miles carefully picked up the cylinder and examined it, finding exactly what he expected on the base, a small Earth manufacturing mark and the words, Deluxe Comfort Plus. This is a personal massage device, he explained, demonstrating by pressing a button that made the cylinder vibrate gently. Humans use it to relieve muscle tension. The different settings are for different intensities and patterns of vibration. Dr. Nixavan's eye blink pattern expressed clear disbelief. Our analysis detected complex algorithmic sequences in the vibration patterns. They appeared deliberately encoded. They are, Miles confirmed, but not for communication. The patterns are designed to be effective at relieving different types of muscle tension. He decided not to mention that this particular model had been marketed specifically for intimate personal relaxation, rather than just shoulder massages. Some cultural details were best left unexplained. The arachnoid scientist made a notation on her datapad. This is the 14th human item this facility has misclassified in the past year alone. I'm finding similar results at every research station I visit, Miles said, carefully placing the massager back in its containment unit. It seems there's been a systematic tendency to assume human technology is more sophisticated or dangerous than it actually is. Or perhaps, Dr. Nixavan suggested, her voice lowering to what might have been a conspiratorial tone, your species deliberately designs mundane items to resemble advanced technology as a defensive strategy. Miles laughed, then realized the scientist was serious. That's not, we don't deliberately. He trailed off, suddenly wondering if the doctor might accidentally be onto something. Earth didn't strategically design party toys to resemble weapons, but the Assembly's consistent misinterpretation of human technology was certainly working to humanity's advantage. Your reaction is noted, the arachnoid said, her eyes blinking in a pattern Miles couldn't interpret. Shall we proceed? To the next item? It's been classified as a potential temporal manipulation device. Lead the way, Miles replied, mentally preparing himself for whatever ordinary human object had been mistaken for a time machine. As they walked through the facility's curved corridors, Miles reflected on how quickly galactic politics had shifted in the months since his trial. The revelations about secret technology development had led to a series of emergency assembly sessions, culminating in a new treaty requiring member species to disclose all military research. The Xendari, thoroughly embarrassed by the Party Sphere incident, had been forced to scale back their diplomatic demands considerably. Earth, meanwhile, had leveraged the situation beautifully. Human diplomats were suddenly being consulted on technology verification across the Assembly, and trade agreements previously stalled for years were moving forward with surprising speed. No one wanted to risk underestimating human capabilities again, even if those capabilities were mostly in the realm of entertainment and personal comfort, rather than advanced weaponry. Miles's personal communication device buzzed softly in his pocket. He checked it discreetly, finding a message from Ambassador Chen. Urgent. Contact secure channel when private. Dr. Nixavan, he addressed the scientist. Could you excuse me for a moment? I need to handle a diplomatic communication. Of course, the arachnoid replied. I will prepare the temporal device for inspection. Once alone in a small communication booth, Miles established the secure connection to the ambassador. Her holographic image appeared, looking unusually tense. Lieutenant, we have a situation, she said without preamble. The Xendari have filed a formal protest with the Assembly. They're claiming Earth deliberately planted the Party Sphere as industrial sabotage. Miles felt a chill run down his spine. Do they have evidence? Circumstantial at best, Chen replied. But they're pushing for a full investigation, including psychonic truth verification for all human diplomatic personnel who had access to their outpost. Psychonic verification? That's invasive level 3 telepathy. It could expose everything we know. Precisely their intention, the ambassador confirmed grimly. We're blocking it on sovereignty grounds, But the political pressure is building. Several species who've had their own technology programs exposed are supporting the Xendari position. Miles ran a hand through his hair. What do you need from me? We need to know exactly what happened, Miles. No diplomatic filters, no political considerations. Just the truth. Did you genuinely get lost and stumble upon that laboratory by accident? Yes, he answered without hesitation. I